every day there are new strands of bacteria, brand new, like, different types of bacteria. Bacteria evolves every day.
What's your name?
Emma?
Emma, my name's Eric. This is John. Do you want us to repeat the argument? Did that make sense to you, what we went through?
Yeah, you can repeat the argument.
Okay. All right, Emma, here's the argument we're making. We're saying evolution is impossible, and we're willing to put $1,000 on the line for someone to disprove us, okay?
Okay.
We're using an argument actually developed by an evolutionary geneticist. This isn't our original argument.
Okay.
The evolutionary geneticist said, what would it take to go from an ape-like creature to a human being? And he's just looking at the stats, the mathematics, the science that we know. This isn't interpretation of the data. This is just the data. So scientists look at data and interpret it. I look at data, I interpret it. This is just the data, okay? That's all we're looking at. The data would say that an ape-like creature and a human being are about how different. What percentage are genetics different from one another? Do you know the answer to that?
Can you go ahead and tell me?
Yeah. Currently, they would say it's about 15% different.
Okay.
They used to say 4 to 5. Before that, they said 2. Before that, they said only 1%. So we're going to go with the just 1% to make evolution even easier, more plausible.
Okay.
Step number 2, how many base pairs are in the human genome? How many base pairs do we have in our genetics? Do you happen to know the answer to that?
Is it the 3 billion?
That's the 3 billion base pairs. Well, if we are only 1% different and there's 3 billion base pairs, how many genetic changes need to take place in order to go from an ape-like creature to a human being?
30 million?
30 million. So we've got to make 30 million genetic changes. Haldane, the guy who discovered this, asked the question, how long would that take? So now we look at the next section, how long would it take to do that? Well, first of all, we have to know, how long would it take for one beneficial mutation to become fixed in the environment? Emma, if you had a beneficial mutation that the whole population needed, how many generations would it take before your beneficial mutation now permeates the entire world's population of humans?
Would it be 1? Or?
Not 1, because as soon as you have a child, that doesn't mean that if that beneficial mutation is passed on, everybody else doesn't have it yet.
Okay.
Haldane was working with a population of 10,000 vertebrates. And he said with 10,000, and we've got 8 billion, 10,000, it would take 300 generations for that mutation to be fixed in the environment.
Okay.
So we're going to make it even easier. We're not going to say 300 generations. We're going to go down to 1 generation. If you look on your paper, that's step number 4, 1 generation. So we're going to say it's every generation. That can't happen. It wouldn't happen. But we're going to say it's going to happen that fast, just to make it easier for evolution. Well, now, how long is a generation? How many years old are you when you have a child?
Anywhere between 20 and 30.
20 to 30, yeah. Some people say 20s, 25, 30. We're going to go with a lower number to make it even easier. We're going to go with every 20 years. If you get 1 beneficial mutation every 20 years and you need 30 million beneficial mutations, how long would that take? We take the 20 times the 30 million, and number 7 gives us a total of... Number 7 is doing that math. 20 times 30 million.
20 times 30 million. Is that the 600
million. Haldane said it would take way too long to get the beneficial mutations to go from an ape-like creature to a human being. We don't see it happen. So our argument is evolution is impossible. We don't see an ape-like creature evolving into a human being with enough time. According to the evolution review today, Lucy, one of our closest living relatives to apes, was 3.2 million years old. And even under these conditions, you need 600 million years. Evolution is impossible. Emma, we'd like you to try to prove us wrong.
So my first question is, where are your sources?
Great question.
It's a good
If
question.
you go to evolutionisimpossible.com, we've got them all laid out there in an incredible video, but John, I'll be happy to show you a couple of those.
Okay, I don't really need to see the clips. I just want to know, you said, so all the information that you've gathered for your side, where is that compiled from? Because I know it's compiled on the website, but who compiled that information? Where did you get that information? And what are their credentials?
That's good. That's a good question.
Her question is, where did we get the information for this? Where did that information come from? Sorry, we'll get sound at 12 o'clock. Sorry, we can't use amplification yet. Go ahead.
Okay, Emma, I think you're asking distinctly intelligent questions, and I wish every person asks those questions when they go on that stand. Usually what we get is somebody standing on that mic saying, I don't think that's possible. What's a more intelligent question to ask is, where is this information come from? And I have no idea what he's doing.
We agree. People arguing like that is
okay.
sad.
This is the problem is arguments like that doesn't help you find truth. So, and people come up with arguments like that when they don't have anything to say. So Emma, this guy who came up with this, his name is John Haldane. He did this in 1957 because in 1953 they found out that the structure of DNA is a double helix. And because they knew everything about DNA by then, which I can show you if you wish, suddenly what happened was that he wanted to find out how fast evolution takes place. And in this process, he discovered something he did not expect. But remember what people think of this guy. He is the Einstein of his day. He is considered the most intelligent biologist that ever lived. Not just some guy who was working from his bedroom PC or something like that. He literally sat down and worked things out for years. So this guy knew exactly what he was talking about, and his information is credible. Based on information he has, he did a lot of research, and he discovered that 1,000 base pairs can only change and get fixed in the population within 300,000 generations. And that exploded across all the scientific fields. It was peer-reviewed, he is very famous, and everybody accepted the conclusion. Of course, scientists came afterwards to try to rebuttal him, and they couldn't. Until another scientist showed up and he said, I've got an idea. It's no longer through natural selection. It's through some other means, which is neutralist, which becomes neutral theory of evolution. That means the beneficial mutations aren't the ones that are advancing, it's the neutral mutations.
Changed what evolution is to try to fit the problem, to try to solve the dilemma.
And today we've got people in schools, biologists teaching, never mentions that, not even once. But in 1993, somebody wrote about this guy's results and said he got it wrong, and he showed us the results to put people back on track again, and it was never resolved ever since. We are worried. Let me tell you something. We are here because we love you, and we can prove that. Because we're going to give you $1,000 if you prove us wrong. This is how much we love you. We're putting money on the line to give you the truth. Our motive, our intention is to open up your eyes. And I'm glad you're asking questions, and please continue asking. This is healthy. So information is credible, is based on facts, it's based on numbers, which is a valid field of science. And if numbers matter, then these results are true, and it destroys evolution.
Okay, can I just refute something really quick?
Of course.
You mentioned that the idea of neutral mutations not being beneficial towards or not contributing towards a population is not being taught in schools.
I did not say that.
Oh, well, from my understanding,
I did not say that.
Well, then can you repeat that sentence?
Of course. Mota Kimura came along and he said natural selection no longer works. Neutral selection is the way things work.
Okay.
In 1993, another scientist wrote about it. And in 2018, believe it or not, many scientists came together and disagreed with him. He said neutral selection does not produce anything through genetic drift, and the theory should be destroyed. And I can bring you many papers that actually say that. So that doesn't really matter. What matters is that Haldane's dilemma was never rescued. And the fact that some scientists are trying to find some other solutions proves that these scientists agree with him. The only people who don't agree with him are the students who've been brainwashed to think only one way. Listen, if somebody's open-minded, what should they do when they find information like this? What do you think they should do?
Do more research?
Thank you. They should do research, not try to stick to their worldview and say, no, evolution is true no matter what. They should go and find out, right? That's education, isn't it?
Yes.
And we are here to do that. We're here to encourage you to open up your minds and be educated.
Emma, what else do you have?
So, can you give me the exact definition of what neutral selection is?
What natural selection is?
Neutral
selection. Do you have that on?
Yes. Neutral selection is the idea that through neutral mutations, you can produce bigger and better things. That means you use genetic drift with neutral mutations in order for things to change. This guy's idea was, well, birds can fly because of neutral mutations. Neutral, that means it's neither harmful nor is it beneficial. Harmful mutations are things that destroy humanity. Beneficial mutations is what makes humanity better. He's saying neutral mutations is how it all worked. He wrote a book about it in 1983. And the opening line was, I'm writing this to convince you that through neutral mutations, all these wonderful things came about. The problem isn't the fact that he said that. The problem is that it was refuted as the means of resolving Haldane's dilemma.
So may I ask you,
Sure.
how is that not evolution?
How is that what?
How is that not evolution?
A neutral, well, again,
We have to
we're
define
dealing
evolution.
with macroevolution.
Yes.
So that would be microevolution. That would be
Okay.
a variation or an adaptation. I'm not against that. We agree with that. Actually, creationists came up with the idea of adaptation. So we're not against that at all.
May I ask another question?
Yeah.
So you said you're refuting the idea that one species cannot turn into another species.
Not one species, because we don't have a good definition of species. Scientists
Yes.
today don't have a definition of species that fits everything we see today.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
not species. I'm using the word kind. The word
Okay.
kind are the original animals capable of reproduction. So that would be approximately, with our modern kind of brand new classification system that we've only been using for a couple hundred years, that Linnaeus came up with, approximately the family level. Not always, but approximately the family level. There's a whole field of science called baraminology that has actually gone back and categorized how many different original kinds of animals were there. Fascinating study. You can look that up on our website.
Okay, so let me figure out how to word this real
Okay.
quick. So you're saying one kind cannot become another kind.
The dog kind cannot become a different kind. I would say that, but Haldane, the evolutionary geneticist, is also saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just us. We've never seen it, tested it, demonstrated. We've tried to make it happen. We have not been able to make it happen. They did the fruit fly experiment in the 1980s, raised 50,000 generations of fruit flies, never got anything better than the fruit fly. We've never observed evolution going from one kind to a different kind happening. We've seen variations. They got flies with curly wings, flies with small wings, red eyes, white eyes, all kinds of mutants of the fly. Never got anything better and never anything other than a fly. So people today are being taught, hey, evolution is true, guys. Guess what, evolution? And they're teaching in the schools. They're using variation, microevolution, adaptation, and saying, oh, just trust us. If we wait long enough, the big evolution can happen. That's not science.
Okay. So going back, not animals or plants, but going back to the bacteria kingdom. Every day there are new strands of bacteria, brand new different types of bacteria. Bacteria evolves every day, and
Yeah.
bacteria takes
Adapts,
days to
changes. You're using the word evolve, and I'm saying that's an adaptation. I don't mind that. That's a variation. We've watched bacteria for 100 and some years, and we've never got it to be anything but a bacteria. Now, if you want to believe the bacteria turned into something that's not a bacteria, that's fine, but that's a belief system.
So the issue with bacteria is that bacteria is a kingdom, so anything that is bacterial falls under that kingdom. So saying that, and there are three kingdoms. There's the eukaryotes, there's the archaea, and then there's the bacteria. By saying we can't get anything other than a bacteria, technically you are right, but by definition, bacteria is the kingdom, which is the most broad subject. What I'm talking about is under that broad subject, the same thing as eukaryotes, because eukaryotes are much more diverse than bacteria. It's much easier to envision what you're saying through eukaryotes. Bacteria, under the family, genus, species, under all of that, we're seeing new different types of species, new genuses, new families every day, because they take days to evolve into different kinds of species, which I understand that species is a very broad term, as we don't really have a specific definition. You are right about that. As it is currently being defined, my understanding is a species is two organisms within the same species that can produce viable and high fitness offspring, so their offspring can reproduce, and that is why donkeys, mules, when they are bred, typically their species cannot reproduce. Same thing with like lions and tigers. So with bacteria, these new different kinds of species that, and I know that they use mitosis to evolve. The same kind of classification system does include those organisms as well. I do just want to say, what's your explanation for that then, if we are seeing them variation every day?
Emma, somebody else is standing behind you. This lady's raising her hand, so we're going to move on. But I'm going to answer the question first. I'm going to answer the question. Emma, do you think this evolutionist who believed in evolution he overlooked those things? You will find that he took everything into account. He took flowers, he took cattle, he took vertebrates, he took animals, he took humans, he took everything into consideration when he was working out what is required to work out the dates for the beneficial mutations to take place. The truth is, even if I were to ignore that, which we should not ignore, I've got here on the screen E. coli, which is the greatest experiment made by Richard Lenski, talking about bacteria and how they evolved. And it takes every 75 days, there are 500 generations. After 20 years, there are nearly 32,000 generations. Just one beneficial mutation you can get out of it, and that was to break the bacteria so that it can digest food that it could only digest under certain circumstances. Our point is that these examples you're bringing don't take away anything from what the Haldane has done. He already believed in those things. He already believed beneficial mutations do happen. We have an argument about that. I think that it doesn't happen at all without fitness costs, but we're ignoring that. We're giving you all the possibilities like Haldane believed. So the truth is, these numbers don't lie. He took everything into consideration, and everything you said will only support what Haldane believed because he already believed them. But here's the deal. He died an evolutionist. Does that say something about a guy who discovered that it doesn't work? He is exactly the same as you. No matter what you tell him, he's not going to change his mind. You know why? Because it's a religious worldview. Only religious people don't change their minds after you show them the facts. And that is our problem today with our society and with our students. You are the next generation. If you continue with this worldview and not willing to change your mind, then our world is not going to be a better place. You're simply going to dogmatically accept things that people tell you without investigating and only walk away ignorant instead of educated.
Okay.
That's what we want from you. Okay, Emma?
Do you mind if
thought. Last thought.
We
got to go to the
we
next
got
person.
people, yeah.
Okay. Do you mind if I challenge your worldview real quick?
That's not what we're here to do. Just
I understand that, but I'm saying, why do you
Tonight,
believe God and evolution are two separate things?
Because the God of evolution, even evolutionists would agree, would be a wicked, immoral God that used billions of years of death and suffering to finally get humanity, which is what he wanted. So that's why they're incompatible. That's the short answer. Long answer is on the website there at Creation Today. If you do that, I did a whole thing called Theistic Evolution on Trial. You can watch the whole thing there. It doesn't fit Scripture. It doesn't fit science. The God of evolution would not be a good God. Even evolutionists agree with that. Hey, Emmett, you've done a great job. I really appreciate you talking to us. I do want you to realize a lot of people will bring up all kinds of other things to try not to argue with the sheer numbers. I want you to look into these numbers. Would you agree, if these numbers are correct, what would that mean for evolution?
I don't necessarily think that would mean evolution is wrong.
Would you say that if these numbers are correct, that macroevolution, if it would take 600 million years to go from an ape-like creature to a human, would you agree the evolution worldview has major problems under those conditions?
I think the issue is, though, evolution, the way you're viewing it, is like, you're viewing it from like a more genetical, mathematical perspective. Evolution is very much heavily based on societal, environmental pressures, and evolution can happen at any speed.
Yeah, but that's circular reasoning. You're just saying evolution is true because evolution is true. We're being very specific. We're saying adaptation in the way you described it is fine. But we're talking about evolution producing something other than its kind is numerically impossible. Would you agree if the premises that we have, if they're true, then it would be true? Would you agree with that?
I do understand where you're coming from with the numbers,
Thank
and I
you.
do think with your numbers that, yes, I do understand your
Thank you.
argument, but I'm not sure where the numbers exactly are coming from. People disagree with the numbers, and I do think that if
disagreeing with-
I
you're
sat
not
down
disagreeing
and did
with
the
us.
math with you, I could push my argument a little bit more.
You're not disagreeing with us, Emma. You're just disagreeing with the greatest biologist who ever lived. If that's what you want to do to hold on to your belief, then do what you need to do. We're not here to indoctrinate you any more than you're already indoctrinated.
We want people to have an education.
That's-
Emma, thank you for stopping and talking
Thank
to
you.
us. We really do appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Give Emma a hand, guys. Give Emma a hand.